Hello, everybody. It's Thursday night. And you know what time it is because you're seeing me, you're already here. It's the Minutes with Milo show, Thursday night edition. Now, let's just see if we're going out on the internet here. We'll check my old. Whoop, there it is. So we know we're getting out there. If you're not watching, it's your own fault. That's all I can tell you. Make your decisions, live with them. Don't come crying to me when I missed it live. Sorry. Set your calendar, set your clock, set your alarm, or subscribe, like the channel, get the notification bell turned on so that when I go live, it'll go ring-a-ding-a-ding-a-dong and you can get on here and watch it live. Otherwise, check it out later. Anytime that you're pleasing, check it out. I appreciate it. All right. So, how's everybody doing? It's Friday. It's my Friday. You've seen this. You can skip this rigmarole that I say every time because I say it's Thursday, but it's my Friday and you got to go to work tomorrow, but I don't. So, there you have it. Tonight's show brought to you by my brain picking up on some kind of junk that I hear. I think, well, there you go. That's a cool topic for Thursday night show. And tonight it happens to be Samuel Colt Firearms. Let's just look at that. Because, I mean, there's all kinds of inventions that have changed world history, and this happens to be one of them. And do I own a Colt? No. Would I like to? Sure. Why not? You want to give me one? Probably not. But it changed history, repeating revolvers. He looked at rifles. According to the internet, Samuel Colt would do anything for $1 almost. Almost, I don't know, $20, maybe $20. Back then, a quarter might have been a quarter. Probably was a quarter back then. I don't know. But anywho, we'll look at this. We'll look at the man. We'll look at the guns. What were some of the most popular ones? What set him apart from everybody else? How much money did he make? What was his net worth? Did he do YouTube? I guarantee you he did not. He did not do YouTube. He looks like a little stick in the mud kind of dude. Maybe he was a fun guy. I don't know. We'll look at some pictures. All right, let's just get right into it and do some research that I should have done before the show started. Nope, 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 nope. Was that it? Well, let's see. Put that there. Open that up. Ah, I've got something in my eye. It happens every time. Ugh. All right, bear with me. Let's do this. Double clickety clackety on that. There's that. This is part of the show where I get really small. I get really small. Oh, this is part of the show too where I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, scoot that over a little bit so you can see contents. You don't need to see the contents, do you? You want to see the whole enchilada. There it is. All right, so Samuel Colt. Samuel Colt. Let's just get rid of that telephone number. We could put it somewhere else. We shrink it? No, because if we shrink it, it gets so tiny you can't dial it anymore. Let's see what that looks like. Probably looks like junk. Yay. Of course, this is from Wikipedia. Alright, so Samuel Colt. See, look at this dude. He didn't look like a fun man. He looks kind of like a stick in the mud. I've got the wrong earphone. Earbud. Ear doohickey in. I know that. Well, that may help a little bit. Looks like the lines are going out there a little far. Roberto's in the house. Hello, Robert. Glad you're here. I didn't give you much warning. I was way behind, and I know Robert's sitting on the edge of his couch, waiting, see if there's going to be a little notification bell ringing, because just making sure that I'm going to be on the internet. But I didn't put out a notice tonight because I was running behind. I barely made it. Robert knows. Wait 5 minutes, then get on. Then you miss all that crap I talk about. It's my Thursday, your Friday, and all that stuff. Okay. Samuel Colt does not look like a fun dude. I mean, I guess back in the 1800s, you spent a lot of money maybe to have a photograph taken. So you didn't want to take half a dozen of them making goofy faces and all that kind of junk. So you did one and done, serious, especially, if you're going to try to sell firearms to the American government. All right. So Samuel Colt, I guess, was born in July 19th, 1814. And he died January 10th, 1862. Huh. How old was he? 5 and 1 is 6. So he wasn't 50. Go back. 4 and 1 is 5. 4 and 10, 4 something, and 8, 9, 7, 6, 8, 48. 48 when he died. Yeah, had to hold still for the photo. Or you get that, traveling time look, that speed look, messes your hair up. I'd like to, they still have those, not like at Gatlinburg or these places where they make fake photos, but there is still dudes that have those bellows style cameras, and they put the flash powder in the little V-shaped thing and light it off with this, I don't know, what was that, a striker or something, how they made it. They still do that. It'd be kind of cool. Maybe we'll look at that, how they invented that camera. All right. So I think he was 48 when he died. When the Civil War start? 1865, or was that in 1862? Maybe tonight we'll mention that. Maybe I'll look at this book again. The Civil War years, what was going on in this year. But what was it? Was it 1865, Robert, the Civil War started? When was it you was born? 1867 something? What was that? Well, anyway, he died right around the time Civil War was getting going. He was an inventor, an industrialist, a businessman who established Colt's patent firearms manufacturing company and made the mass production of revolvers commercially viable. So he wasn't always a firearms producer. Colt's first 2 business ventures were producing firearms in Paterson, New Jersey, and making underwater mines. Both ended in disappointment. His business expanded rapidly after 1847, when the Texas Rangers ordered 1,000 revolvers during the American War in Mexico. During the American Civil War, his factory in Hartford supplied firearms to both the North and the South. So he was it ended in 65. Started in 61. Okay. Thank you very much, Robert. So he had one good year while he was living, one good year of firearm sales in the Civil War. because he supplied both the North and the South. Later, his firearms were used widely in the settling of the western frontier. When Colt died in 1862, he was one of the wealthiest men in the United States, which was saying something back then, because I think a lot of money, most of the money, really rich dudes were in the railroad. You know, they ruled the roost on, transportation, shipping stuff, all that kind of stuff. It's all railroad money. So if he was one of the wealthiest men in 1862, that is saying something. It says his manufacturing methods were at the forefront of the Industrial Revolution. His use of interchangeable parts helped him become one of the first to make efficient use of the assembly line manufacturing process. Moreover, his innovative use of art, celebrity endorsements, and corporate gifts to promote his wares made him a pioneer in advertising. So really, he was one of the first of the, what is it? Shoot. Now I can't remember what they call it. The guys that make war arms and all that stuff. But anyway, he was a wheeler dealer. Samuel Colt was born in Hartford, Connecticut, the son of Christopher Colt, born in 1780 to 1850, a farmer who had moved his family to the city after he became a businessman, and Sarah, his maternal family to the city after he became a businessman, and Sarah Caldwell, his maternal grandfather, Major John Caldwell, had been an officer in the Continental Army. One of Colt's earliest possessions was John's flintlock pistol. Colt's mother died from tuberculosis when Colt was 6 years old, and his father married Olivia Sargent 2 years later. Colt had 3 sisters, one of whom died during her childhood. His oldest sister, Margaret, died of tuberculosis at age 19, and the other, Sarah Ann, later died by suicide. One brother, James, became a lawyer. Another, Christopher, was a textile merchant. The third brother, John C. Colt, a man of many occupations, was convicted of an 1841 murder and died by suicide on the day he was to be executed. So that's interesting. So John C. Colt, forget the family lineage. I don't understand that. Father passed, or mother passed away. Then he had 3 sisters and then 3 brothers. Man, I don't know. But this dude, John C. Colt, a man of many occupations, was convicted of an 1841 murder. Not an 1842, mind you. An 1841 murder, the worst kind. And he killed himself the day he was to be executed. Was that his last request? Was that his last meal? I know this ain't about the firearms business, but that's a question you just got to answer. He died by suicide on the day he was to be executed. Do you think he was supposed to be hanged, but he hung himself in the cell instead of going out on the gallows? Or did he hang himself in the cell because he was going to be executed by like a firing squad? I don't know. That's just really weird. So, what does number 2 say? Lost in 1914. At age 11, Colt was indentured to a farmer in Glastonbury, where he did chores and attended school. Glastonbury where? Glastonbury is a town in the Capital Planning Region of Connecticut, United States, formerly founded in 1693 and first settled in 1636, or drawn and quartered. Was that how he committed suicide, or was that how he was supposed to be executed? We don't know. But the fact that at age 15, at age 11, he was indentured to a farmer in Glastonbury where he did chores and attended school. Here he was introduced to the Copulipendinium. See this word? Where is it? Right here. I gotta find out what that means, because that is a word I don't think I am familiar with. Compendium. Compendium? A collection of concise but detailed information about a particular subject, especially in a book or other publication. All right. So what did he do with that? He was introduced to the compendium of knowledge, a scientific encyclopedia that he preferred to read rather than his Bible studies. Its articles about Robert Fulton and gunpowder motivated Colt through his life. He discovered that other inventors in the compendium had accomplished feats that were once deemed impossible, and he wanted to do the same. Later, after hearing soldiers talk about the success of the double-barreled rifle and the impossibility of a gun that could shoot 5 or 6 times without reloading, Colt decided he would create the impossible gun. At age 11, interesting. In 1829, at the age of 15, 4 years later, because I can count, Colt began working in his father's textile plant in Massachusetts. So why did he become indentured? He was indentured for 4 years and then went to work for his father. Why didn't his father just make him work when he was 11 in the factory? Or wherever he was? Yeah, textile plant. I mean, set the kid to work. Why send him off to be indentured? Where he had access to tools, material, and the factory workers' expertise. Using what he learned from the compendium, Samuel built a homemade galvanic sail and advertised that as the 4th of July event that year that he would explode a raft on Ware Pond using underwater explosives. Although the raft was missed, the explosion was still impressive. All right, a galvanic sail or voltaic sail, named after the scientist Luigi Galvani and Accessoduro Volta, is an electrochemical cell in which an electric current is generated from spontaneous oxidation reduction reactions. An example of a galvanic cell consists of 2 different metals when immersed in separate. All right, let's open that in a different. Different materials, each immersed in separate beakers containing their respective metals ions in a solution that was connected by a salt bridge or separated by a porous membrane. Volta was the inventor of the voltaic pile, the first electrical battery. Common usage of the word battery has evolved to include a single galvanic cell, but the first batteries were made of many galvanic cells. I don't understand, but anyway, he made an underwater explosion that, even though it missed the raft, was still impressive. Sent to boarding school, once again his daddy ships him off. He amused his classmates with pyrotechnics. In 1830, a July 4th accident caused a fire that ended his schooling, and his father sent him away to learn the seaman's trade. On a voyage to Calcutta aboard the brig Barbaro, Colt had an idea of a type of revolver inspired by capstans and windlasses, which have a ratchet and pawl mechanism. He would later say gave him the idea for his revolver design. On the Corbeau, Colt made a wooden model of a pepper box revolver out of scrap wood. It differed from other pepper box revolvers at the time that it allowed the shooter to rotate the cylinder by the action of cocking the hammer, with an attached pawl turning the cylinder, which was locked firmly in alignment with one of the barrels by a bolt, a great improvement over the earliest designs, which required rotating the barrels by hand and hoping for proper indexing and alignment. Pepper box revolver. Oh, look at that. Okay. Like a 4-shot. Hammer. I like when you can hover over these things. There again, his father sends him off. All right, so in 1829, at the age of 15, and he screwed that up by blowing up some stuff in the pond. So at age 16, his daddy put him on a ship and sent him away. The kid had a pretty rough life. I mean, you know, was he the cabin boy on this? He was only 16 years old. Oh my gosh. When Colt returned to the United States in 1832, let's see. So he went on the ship at 1830. So at 16, 2 years later, now he's 18. He resumed working for his father, who financed the production of 2 guns, a rifle and a pistol. The first completed pistol exploded when it was fired, but the rifle performed well. Entitled people should hear this. Well, I'll tell you what, at an early age, it didn't seem like he was spoiled. It seemed like his daddy shipped him off for, maybe that's when daddy was making all these other sisters and brothers when the Colt boy was out being, you know, working on these ships and being indentured to a farmer. What else did he do? Yeah, he worked at his father's textile mill for a year. I don't know, man. Dude had a rough time. Where did we go? But the rifle performed well. His father would not finance any of the further development, so Samuel needed to find a way to pay for developing his ideas. $20 is $20, he said. He had learned about the nitrous oxide laughing gas from the chemist at his father's textile plant, so he took a portable laboratory on tour and earned a living performing laughing gas demonstrations across the United States and Canada, calling himself as the celebrated Dr. Colt of New York, London, and Calcutta. Colt thought of himself as a man of science and believed if he could enlighten people about a new idea like nitrous oxide, he could in turn make people more receptive to his new idea concerning the revolver. So he sold laughing gas. He started his lectures on street corners and soon worked his way up to lecture halls and museums. The man was a salesman for sure. As ticket sales declined, Colt realized that serious museum lectures were not what people wanted to pay for. It was dramatic stories of salvation and redemption the public craved. While visiting his brother John in Cincinnati, he partnered with the sculptor Herman Powers for his demonstrations with a theme based on the Divine Comedy. Powers made detailed wax sculptures and paintings based on demons, centaurs, and mummies from Dante's work. Colt constructed firearms for the finals of the show, which was a success. According to Colt historian Robert Lawrence Wilson, the lecture launched Colt's celebrated career as a pioneer Madison Avenue-style pitchman. His public speaking skills were so prized that he was thought to be a doctor and was pressed into service to cure an apparent cholera epidemic aboard a riverboat by giving stricken passengers a dose of nitrous oxide. Man, oh man, oh man. Having saved some money and still wanting to be considered an inventor as opposed to a medicine man, Colt made arrangements to begin building guns using proper gunsmiths from Baltimore. All right, so here we go. You're getting into it. He abandoned the idea of a multi-barreled revolver and opted for a single fixed barrel design with a rotating cylinder. The action of the hammer would align the cylinder boards with a single barrel. He sought the counsel of a friend of his father, Henry Levet Ellsworth, who loaned him $300 and advised him to perfect his prototype before applying for a patent. Colt hired a gunsmith by the name of John Pearson to build his revolver. After a few years, Colt and Pearson argued about money, but the design improved, and by 1835, Colt was ready to apply for his U.S. patent. So in 1835, how old was he? 1829, he was 15, 16, 5, 30, 21. I think he was 21. $1835, yeah. All right, so Ellsworth was now superintendent of the U.S. Patent Office and advised Colt to file for foreign patents first, as a prior U.S. patent would keep Colt from filing a patent in the United Kingdom. In August 1835, Colt left for England and France to secure his foreign patents. Colt's trip to the United Kingdom had been preceded by a similar visit by Elisa Collier, a Bostonian who had patented a revolving flintlock, for that achieved great popularity. Yep, his father sold him into indentured servitude and a ship to Calcutta. Yep. So he wasn't like a pampered kid, that's for sure. He paid his dues early on for sure. Alicia Collier, a Bostonian who had patented a revolving flintlock that achieved great popularity. Despite the reluctance of the English officials to issue a patent to Colt, no fault could be found with the gun, and he was issued his first patent. Upon his return to America, he applied for his U.S. patent for a revolving gun. He was granted the patent on February 25, 1836. His instrument and patent number 1304, dated August 29, 1836, protected the basic principles of his revolving breech-loading, folding trigger firearm called the Colt Patterson. With a loan from his cousin, he's getting money from everybody he can, Dudley Selden, and letters of recommendation from Ellsworth, Colt formed a corporation of venture capitalists in 1836 to bring his idea to market. With the help of the political connections of these venture capitalists, the Patent Arms Manufacturing Company of Paterson, New Jersey, was chartered by the New Jersey legislation on March 5, 1835, 1836, blah, blah, blah. Colt was given a royalty for each gun sold in exchange for his share of the patent rights, and it was stipulated that rights would be returned to Colt if the company disbanded. Colt never claimed to have invented the revolver. His design was a more practical adaptation of Collard's earlier revolving flintlock, incorporating a locking bolt to keep the cylinder aligned with the barrel. The invention of the percussion cap made ignition more reliable, faster, and safer with the older flintlocks. Colt's great contribution was the use of interchangeable parts. Knowing that some gun parts were made by machines, he envisioned the parts of every Colt gun to be interchangeable and made by machines to be assembled later by hand. His goal was an assembly line. This is shown in 1836 letter Colt wrote to his father, in which he said, "The first workman would receive 2 or 3 of the most important parts and would affix these and pass them on to the next, who would add a part and pass the growing article to another who would do the same, and so on until complete arms was put together." So, in a long story short, he started and didn't invent the revolver. He invented a way to make it better and worked to make it easier to produce by using assembly line methods, which was just simply by what he said there was these two dudes put parts on and give it to somebody else, and they put parts on and they give it to somebody else. And then by the end of it, it's all put together, which makes sense. Mines and tinfoil. What? Oh yeah. He not only made firearms, but what was it he was also good at doing? Plastic. No, we don't need that. Uh, where was it I saw that? That's 1911. All right, let's see what else he did. Colt's U.S. revolver patent gave him a monopoly on revolver manufacture until 1857. His was the first practical revolver and the first practical repeating firearm thanks to progress made in percussion technology. No longer a mere novelty weapon, the revolver became an industrial and cultural legacy as well as a contribution to the development of war technology. Iconically signified the name of one of the company's later innovations, the Peacemaker. Although by the end of 1837 the arms company had made more than 1,000 weapons, there had been no sales. Well, that's not good. You can't make stuff and not sell them. After the panic of 1837, the company's underwriters were reluctant to fund the new machinery that Colt needed to make interchangeable parts, so he went on the road to raise money, demonstrating his gun to people in general stores. Did not generate the sales volume he needed, so with another loan from his cousin Selden, he went to Washington, D.C. and demonstrated it to President Andrew Jackson. Jackson approved of the gun and wrote Colt a note saying so. With this letter, Colt pushed a bill through Congress endorsing a demonstration for the military, but he failed to obtain an appropriation for the military purchase of the weapon. A promising order from the state of South Carolina for 50 to 75 pistols was canceled when the company did not produce them quickly enough. The provisions of the Militia Act of 1808 were a constant problem for Colt, as they required that any arm purchased by a state militia had to be in current service in the United States military. This prevented state militants from allocating funds for the purchase of experimental weapons or foreign weapons. Colt undermined his own company with his reckless spending. Selden often chastised him for using corporate funds to buy an expensive wardrobe or give lavish gifts to potential clients. Selden twice prohibited Colt from using company money for liquor and fancy dinners. Colt thought getting potential customers inebriated would generate more sales. Well, he wasn't wrong. I mean, that's the whole premise of a gambling casino, right? You get them all, liquored up, and then they spend more money. The company was given a brief reprieve by the war against the Seminoles in Florida, which provided the first sale of Colt's revolvers and his new revolving rifle. The soldiers in Florida praised the new weapon, but the unusual hammerless design, 60 years ahead of its time, made it difficult to train men who were used to exposed hammer guns. Many curious soldiers took the locks apart, resulting in broken parts, stripped screws, heads, and inoperable guns. Colt soon reworked his design to leave the firing hammer exposed, but problems continued. In late 1843, after the loss of payment for the Florida pistols, the Patterson plant closed, and a public auction was held in New York to sell the company's most liquid assets. So he made landmines too, or mines. Colt did not refrain long from manufacturing as he turned to selling underwater electrical detonators and waterproof cable of his own invention. Soon after the failure of the Patton Arms Manufacturing Company, he teamed up with Samuel Morse to lobby the U.S. government for funds. Colt's waterproof cable, made from tar-coated copper, proved valuable when Morse ran telegraph lines under lakes, rivers, and bays and made attempts to lay a telegraph line under the Atlantic Ocean. That's a long way. Morse used the battery from one of Colt's mines to transmit a telegraph message from Manhattan to Governor's Island when his own battery was too weak to send the signal. He went to the government a lot and Congress to appropriate funds. So in 1842, he used one of the devices, underwater mines, to destroy a moving vessel to the satisfaction of the United States Navy and President John Tyler. However, opposition from John Quincy Adams, who was serving as the U.S. representative for Massachusetts' 8th Congressional District, scuttled the project as not fair and honest warfare, calling the Colt mine an unchristian contraption. Alrighty then. After the setback, Colt turned his attention to perfecting tinfoil cartridges he had originally designed for use in his revolvers. The standard at the time was to have powder and ball contained in a paper or skin envelope cartridge for ease of loading. However, if the paper got wet, powder would be ruined. That's it. Keep your powder dry, boys. Colt tried alternative methods such as rubber cement, finally deciding on a thin type of tinfoil. In 1841, he made samples of these cartridges for the Army. During tests of the foil cartridges, 25 rounds were shot from a musket without cleaning. When the breech plug was removed from the barrel, no fouling from the tinfoil was evident. The reception was lukewarm, but the Army purchased a few thousand rounds for their testing. In 1843, the Army gave Colt an order for 200,000 of the tinfoil cartridges packaged in tin to a box for use in muskets. Well, I think that was his first success, don't you? With the money made from the cartridges, Colt resumed business with Morris for ideas other than detonating mines. Colt concentrated on manufacturing his waterproof telegraph cable, believing the business would prosper in tandem with Morse's invention. He began promoting the telegraph companies to create a greater market for his cable, for which he was paid 50 cents per mile. Colt tried to use his revenue to reassure the patent arms manufacturing company, but could not secure funds from other investors or even his own family. This left Colt time to improve his earlier revolver design and have a prototype for his new and improved revolver built by a gunsmith in New York. This new revolver had a stationary trigger and a larger caliber. Colt submitted the single prototype to the War Department as a holster revolver. He's quite the man. So, all this come around. Let's see. Well, let's look at the most famous. What is his most famous revolver? I can't. What's Colt's most famous? Huh. All right, so it says one of the most famous handguns of all time is the Colt single-action Army revolver, also known as the Peacemaker, Frontier six-shooter, and the M1 873. The single-action Army is also a staple of Hollywood films, appearing in virtually every cowboy and western film ever made. The Colt single-action Army revolver is the most famous Colt revolver for the 19th century. It is also commonly known as Colt Peacemaker or simply the single-action Army. So that's a wired earth used. That's a pretty long barrel. It looks like it's 7.5 inches. That's a really long barrel. Really long barrel. I like those guns. Right there. I like just the big, hexagon, whatever barrel that's on those things. Those are pretty cool. Let's see. The short barrel like this one, knocking people out with it, like hitting them on the head with the revolver. This short barrel is what I kind of think of the gunfighter. Man, that's just, I don't like the way that looks. This one the same way. Yep, that one's the same way. See how the handle just curves up and abruptly stops right here. I'd like it to, I like when they curve more up into the, up through the handle there. There's another, that's what I, like I said, that's what I consider a gunfighting. Gunslinger's gun. So 5 classic Colts guns you've got to own. And this is out of Gun Digest. So the model's 1873 Colt single action Army revolver with a 4 3/4 inch barrel, not the 7.5 inch barrel. It's in the 45 Colt classic gunfighter's weapon of the Old West. Yeah. When I think of Old West movies, this is what I think of, not the 7.5 inch barrel that they showed before. Now I used to have a 911. It wasn't an actual Colt. It was just like a a repop, you know, a manufactured knockoff or whatever. But it was pretty cool. So out of the 5 iconic Colt firearms that will crown our gun collection, the ones you need to own is the 911, the Colt AR-15, the Single Action Army, the Python, and the Woodsman. Now, I'm not familiar with the Woodsman. It says the ground shifted in 1836. Samuel Colt was at the epicenter in that year, and the ambitious businessman introduced the gun that arguably changed it all, the Colt Patterson. While it wasn't the first repeating arm to come down the pike, it was the first successful one, and arguably it changed gun designs, not to mention the world forever. From that point on, a single shot loaded from the muzzle just wasn't going to cut mustard. Walker. What you mean, Walker? Most famous, knocking people out. Yep, Walker. Please explain, Robert. I will continue until you do. Had the Patterson revolver been all Colt contributed, it would have been enough to cement his place in one of the greats. But the man and his company have a litany of greatest hits that prove gems of any collection, and with a few exceptions, Colt still manufactures all of them, making it fairly simple to add one of the classics to your gun safe. So without further ado, here are the 5 Colt guns every shooter should aim to add to their collection. Oh, the Colt Walker. I'm sorry. Let's see. I saw that somewhere. In one of these research, let me think. I think I phrased it. When I was doing some research, I looked at the history of the gun as opposed to Samuel Colt. Yeah. Okay. So looking at the way not the man but the manufacturing company. Let's see. Here it is. The most famous Colt products were made. Let's see. The most famous Colt products include the Colt Walker. Ta-da! Made in 1847 in the facilities of Eli Whitney Jr., the Colt Single Action Army, the Colt Python, and the Colt M1911. So when I started to do research for the show, I looked for the history of the Colt Firearms as opposed to the history of Samuel Colt. So when you said that the Walker, I didn't put it all together, but when you specified Colt Walker, I remembered I had seen that when I was looking at the manufacturer side instead of the person side. What I looked for, what I originally started the show on was a quote that I'd heard on the Joe Rogan Experience. A guy was talking about Colt manufacturing these pistols, and he wasn't selling any, and he was building these things by himself in his apartment or wherever he was living, and he was about to go bankrupt when I forget, Texas Rangers or somebody like that bought like 175 or 200 or something like that of his pistols, and then he processed that order, and with that money he was able to put it back into the company. And then I think another war. I can't remember. I don't think it was Civil War. One of these conflicts came up, and since, he had produced these and they were out there then, like the Army ordered like 1,000, 2,000, whatever it was, made a significant order, and that's when he really started making the guns in mass production, was doing the interchangeable parts and all that stuff. But I kind of switched it over to the history of, the dude instead of, manufacturing the guns he manufactured. But yeah, one of the most famous was the Colt Walker. And I'd like to see, I think this is this the one? Yeah, we were getting down to it. Let's see. Over here. I thought I saw that dude's picture in this part over here. I remember that ugly mug he had. There he is. Samuel. All right. So Captain Samuel Walker of the Texas Rangers had acquired some of the first Colt revolvers produced during the Seminole War and saw firsthand their effective use when his 15-man unit defeated a larger force of 70 Comanches in Texas. So this, what you'd mentioned, ties it into what I'd read about the manufacturer. He'd made a certain amount of guns, and this talks about the Texas Ranger dudes. Walker wanted to order Colt revolvers for use by the Rangers in the Mexican-American War and traveled to New York City in search of Colt. On January 4th, 1847, he met Colt in a gunsmith shop and ordered 1,000 revolvers. Walker asked for a few changes. The new revolvers would have to hold 6 shots instead of 5, have enough powder to kill either a human or a horse with a single shot, and be quicker to reload. The larger order allowed Colt to establish a new firearm business. He hired Eli Whitney Blake, who was established in the arms business, to make these guns. Colt used his prototype and Walker's improvements as the basis for his new design. From this new design, also was known as the Colt Walker, Blake produced the first 1,000-piece order. The company then received an order for 1,000 more. Colt shared his profits at $10 per pistol for both orders. All right. So there you go. It was a big, the Colt Walker was a big turning point in his business, apparently. So this is the one I was kind of thinking. I'd like to see. Let me look at this. How did the Colt Walker let's see how that works. I think that's one of the ones that you grab this lever here. Can you see it? Let's see. Let me do this real quick. Can I scoot that over? Why can't? Oh my gosh! Click on that. Scoot. Oh, there we go. All right. So I think this is the one where you take this lever and you pull it down. It sends that plunger out, and does it pack in the new shell? So not as interesting of a man, but a great gun designer is John Browning. Now, is Browning the one that produced? I saw a movie one time, and I can't remember who the actor was, but I think the Browning repeating rifle was actually, I won't say invented, but the guy made it while he was in prison. Is that the one? Because I swear, in this one movie I saw, for whatever reason, the guy was in prison. He was working as whatever the prison, you know, prisoners used to make things for free, basically, and then the state, prison, federal government, whoever would sell whatever the prisoners were making to help fund the prison. But he was working in this machine shop in a prison that did something else, but on breaks, he got permission from like the head dude over the shop to work on a gun, and he built it all by hand with files and pieces like that. Now this is just me remembering the movie. And he made a repeating, like a better version of the Gatling gun or something, like the first machine gun. Now I'm thinking it was the Browning like you're talking about, and they actually gave him permission in the movie to shoot the first prototype that he ever made. And of course he was surrounded by all these armed guards, because now he had a machine gun that, you know, could kill them all in, you know, with one clip. But he was a good dude and all that kind of stuff. And oh, so that if he was 13 years old when he designed it, then maybe that wasn't him. I don't. But for some reason, I was thinking it was like the Browning repeating rifle that this movie was about. Which was a huge thing. Different dude. Okay. Do you have any idea? Does that sound familiar to you? About what I'm talking about, the dude on the movie that made it in prison? Does that sound familiar or something? I was trying to see how that worked. If there was a video of it out there. Oh my gosh, what did I click on? No, not the Walker. Not the Walther. The Walker. Colt. Coley. Jeez almighty Pete. Give me a video, dude. It's not a pocket pistol. All right, so he made the 1911. Now, isn't that a Colt product? The Colt 1911? That dude right there? Let's see if there's one in here. Let's see what this video says. All right, hold on.
Power and effectiveness of the Colt Walker cap and ball revolver, or at least this Uberti replica. Now, power and effectiveness are relative, so we'll shoot this side by side with the Ruger Old Army cap and ball revolver and see how they compare.
All right. So the Walker was a cap and ball. So that's why when I was looking at this thing, he'll probably show it here. But this lever and plunger, the cap goes here. So you put on a striking cap. Somehow you load in your wad and ball here, and you pull the lever down that then compacts it against the cap. And then as you rotate it around and you fire it, cap explodes, shooting out the ball and wad down your barrel. Let's see if I'm right.
Now, this comes with a few caveats. One,
What's a
we
caveat?
already have presentations on the basics of black powder, on loading and firing cap and ball revolvers. We have one on cap and ball revolvers for concealed carry personal protection home defense.
Yada,
So
yada,
we don't have to
keep going.
Now, point 5,
Keep going.
since before anyone This is your rear sight. Sights.
Go back.
By comparison, accuracy. And the first, lots of people will ask, so I'm going to mention it. The propellant that I'm going to be using today is black powder. And when I do that, lots and lots of people will ask about black powder substitutes. So I'll spend a few minutes. So with that, now let's discuss accuracy. And the first thing I have to say is that it would be completely unfair and unrealistic to compare the accuracy of these two revolvers. A comparison of accuracy would also be over for a few months. Let's see what kind of accuracy for the target.
Okay.
Let's see what
Pow. I hope he shoots the camera. Come on. Are you gonna shoot? There you go. He missed. He's missed twice. 3 times. He's getting better.
My aiming point is in the center, but when I saw how high it hit, I revolvers. I have the chrono.
Oh, he's not gonna show.
Now I have the walker backed up.
All right. Boring video.
Well, I crunched the numbers, and it comes with the normal caveats that chronographs don't always agree with each other in certain environmental.
If he says caveat one more time, we're gonna die. I'm gonna die. Ooh, golly. That dude's passed for a man or a woman. Whatever. All right. So, I'm not going to figure out what that is, but I'm pretty sure that's the way it works. The cap goes, I know the cap goes here. Then the ball. There has to be a gunpowder charge. So somewhere you have to put the powder in there, and then the ball on it, and then this is your tamper. So even though it was repeating, it wasn't a self-contained cartridge. But still very innovative. Helped them out a lot, apparently. So, back to 5 most popular. The chamber. See, is that the one where you like have different chambers? You take it out, you put in one that's loaded, then you load the 4 or 5 shots in the other one and have it in standby. Almost like a speed loader, except, speed loader, you don't change the rotating assembly, you just drop in the shells, but in that one, you change the cylinders with one that was loaded and one that was empty. Is that what you mean? So, you should own a Colt 1911. I think I called it a 911 before. That's not right. A 1911, which is a very good gun. Everybody carried them back in the day. Army carried them. Probably up until they went to the 9mm. .45 is still a better round, I think. So there you go. Undeniably, John Browning's 1911 is among the greatest pistol designs. Successful service in World War. Well, buddy, I'm all out of ideas here. So this is the Colt 1911. And this talks about John Browning's 1911 is among the greatest pistol designs. Successful service in 2 world wars is enough to put it at the top. While there are many gun makers, customs, and otherwise, that turn out renditions of this piece of American badassery, Colt continues to set the standard, given the company's long history with the pistol. That is how it should be. Plus, with Colt, there's no shortage of riffs off the original 1911 design. Need a deep cover piece? Check out the Minute Mustang Light. Looking for a top-end competition pistol? The Gold Cup more than lives up to its name. Honestly, if you have an objective, Colt has a 1911 to meet it. Overall, for my money, there are 2 standouts in particular, the Colt Government model and the Colt Combat Commander. So the government model was a big frame version. The Colt Combat Commander, as I calls a medium or small frame with a short barrel and slide. Robert says M1911 or Modern 1, I think. At an entry-level option, the government model, $800. Woo! I don't know when that was. The direct replacement of the original M1911. Hello, there it is. It's a full size and boasts many of the features of its predecessor: straight cocking, serrations, fixed sights. It's also available with the Series 70 or 80 firing systems. However, the 45 ACP isn't simply a slice of nostalgia. It's also a shooter, more than fit for home defense or on-the-dot target shooting. As practical as the Roth IRA, the Combat Commander, $999, is the best of both worlds. Its 4¼ inch barrel makes it more viable for conceal and carry, yet it has the heft to soak up recoil, thus making the pistol lightning fast and dead on accuracy. The follow-up shot. A step up in price, the Combat Commander is still valuable, boasting premium features such as genuine Novak low mount sights, G10 grips, and Colt's dual spring recoil system. Either choice you've made, definitely getting a functional shooter. So there's the AR-15 for the Colt, which is, you know, kind of the standard set for an AR-15. Of course, the AR-15 is the downsized rifle of the M16. There's the Colt Single Action Army. In the past, Colt has attempted to jettison perhaps its most famous handgun. When you're a gun maker contracting with the U.S. military, it makes sense you might want to shelf that. By all standards, it's an anachronism. But they've paid for those misforgotten endeavors with the Single Action Army, and thankfully its soldiers on this category today. It's just a kind of cute little, pistol. It looks pretty cool. So there's the Python. Big old 357 looks like. Yep. 1955 Colt Firearms introduced many to believe the most elegant 357 Magnum revolver ever created, the Python. This example is an ultimate Python in stainless steel that has the best features found with any Python, plus the bonus of custom grips to make it one of the nicest 357 Magnum revolvers that you could find. It is a good looking pistol. Instead of a cigarette case, you get a 357 case. The next, the Colt Woodsman. What's this? 22. There, okay. The Colt Woodsman is a quintessential 22 semi-automatic pistol. It's a shame they aren't made steel, because when it comes to accuracy and classic lines, the reliability of the pistol had them all in spades. Figures given John Browning came up with the original model that would go to become the Woodsman. So there's your John Browning again. Apparently, Colt liked his ideas. Part of the reason why rimfire provided so accurate is how it was manufactured. In the early 1900s design, it required a lot of machining and hand fitting. In turn, the Woodsman was as tight as a drum, but the design itself also helped make it a shooter. In particular, the steep rake of its grip made it naturally pointing pistol, particularly when shooting one-handed. The gun was the look of the competition pistol because of for so many shooters, it was used for that exact purpose. Most iterations of the Woodsman also came with some pretty nifty features such as fully adjustable rear sights, long shot hold open, and thumb rest. Last shot, hold open, and thumb rest. And these, primarily found in the first and second series, can run a pretty penny. So the 1911, the Python, the Cobra, AR-15, the Defender. These are all 1903. Colt Commander. Hello? Are you in there? Alright. Slim down version. Little Colt competition. Carbine. Alright. BAR. I did a, was that the one I did a show on where they took it out of the airplane? That wasn't the one where they took it out of the airplane. BAR wasn't the Browning automatic repeating rifle or something like that? That's what BAR stood for. Browning's automatic repeater. Can't remember what the BAR stands for. He had quite a few pictures made. Is there any of them when he's smiling? No, there are not any pictures of him smiling. Unless that's him right there. Can you see that one? Bring it up a little further. That's Samuel Colt. That's Samuel Colt right there. This is when he was shaved his hair and cut off his beard. This is what he looked like. Not one picture of that old dude smiling. There's your classic pose right there. Woohoo. All right. Well, that's all I got. That is the deal, Lucille's. The deal's Lucille's. All right. The Colt repeating arms. I don't know, man. I often think that, nowadays it's harder to come up with inventions because there's so many other things that have been invented that, stuff is running out to be invented. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong. But it just seems like back in, I don't know, 1700s, 1800s, there was more to be invented and it was easier to be an inventor. But you didn't know as much. That's another thing. You come back to that is like they didn't have the knowledge back then. And, even this, only the smart people invented things because they had enough book learning, enough education, being exposed to stuff besides, the back end of a plow donkey or mule. If you were rich, you had a mule to pull your plow. But you get what I'm saying is the dude that's back farming or, slopping the hogs or feeding the chickens or, turning the ground to plant, a garden, didn't have time to sit around going, wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to load a flintlock rifle or a flintlock pistol with powder and a gun and a ball and had this little rock that, hit this piece of metal and sometimes it made a spark and then the thing would shoot. And boy, I wish I could come up with something different. No, you're worrying about, we're going to live through the day. Am I going to, the hogs are going to get out, bust down the fence and eat the cows? I don't know. KMC. Hello, KMC. Howdy to you too. I'm sorry you're here kind of late. I'm just getting ready to wrap it up. I'm just rambling on here at the end. But it just seems like, the well-to-do guy. Now this guy, Colt, he was sold, I won't say into slavery, but, being an indentured servant at the age of what? Was he 11 when he went to be the indentured servant of the farmer dude? I think he was. He didn't have an easy life, man. But he come up with some good stuff. He earned his way. And, that's pretty cool. So anyway, I think that's going to conclude tonight's show. It wasn't I didn't find exactly when my research, I didn't find those things. We came close with the deal where, we, the war with the Texas Rangers, the Seminoles, he sold some pistols, and then the Texas Ranger come and wanted 1,000. They gave him those, and after 1,000, guy come and wanted more. So that was kind of the turning point a lot for his pistols. And Robert talked about the Colt Walker, which was pretty cool. So anyway, if you like the show, come back next Thursday. I'll do another one at 9, another live show. There's what are we on here? Which one is this? 187. There's plenty to go back and look at. But subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, send me an email. The phone number's up there if you're interested. Come in on the show, give me a call. We'll talk on the telephone. Hell, I'll hook you up. You can be on the. You've got a camera and a computer. We'll hook you up. You'll be on the show live and in person. But you can call in, join the chat, leave me comments. But until next time, I appreciate everybody coming by and watching the show or the videos. Tell your friends, neighbors, loved ones, your hated ones, all those people. Somebody's bound to watch. All right, let's see if I can find this button. There it is. All right.